Hello and welcome to another Let's Play of Eldfall Chronicles. This time I'll be playing the Coalition of Thenion in the Heart of Obsidian campaign. And the coalition will be composed of one Ranger skilled hunter who will be deployed in Shrouded. Also the Slayer Dragoon will be here. As you can see, once again, she's already mounted on her Lupus Rex. And finally, we will have a Night Temple Priestess, a demon specific to the Coalition of Thenion, who will also join the party. So, I will try a little bit different to record this game. Let me know in the comments what you think about this compared to my previous videos. And with this, let me start the first turn of the Coalition, and I'll see you then. So, the Coalition of Thenion's first activation will be the Night Temple Enchantress. In a strategic phase and her movement, she will go into the flying state. Then, she will just drift a little bit. Actually, she will stay there when she activates. So she declares an idle activation. Next, she will convert one of her mana points, because she has the mage class, one of her activation points, into a mana token to prepare a spell called Draining Impulse. But more about that next time, or in the next turn hopefully. And this turn she will spend her second activation to cast at the Slayer Dragoon the spell Unrelenting Seal. When the enchanted mortal suffers a wound, it may perform a moral roll. If successful, that wound is prevented and the spell ends. So, this is the activation of the Night Temple Priestess, and I will prepare the next activation. I'll see you then. Next, for the Coalition, the Slayer Dragoon will activate. She will spend her activation point to declare a dash action. With this, she will move 10 inches. Actually, let it be 12 inches up to here, so that she's still within 2 inches of the Earth Elemental. And the Earth Elemental will declare a dodge action, because the Slayer Dragoon declared the dash action, which allows her to make an attack at the end. So with this, the Earth Elemental will have to roll a 6 or less. With a roll of 13, it is far above the agility. The Slayer Dragoon, on the other hand, has to roll a 17 or less. That's a 15. With that, the Slayer Dragoon is able to hit the Earth Elemental. Having a look at the Slayer Dragoon's profile, the Slayer Lance has a power of toughness 3, 12 plus 3, therefore 15, plus 2, 17, and she will use her Assassination 1 plus 1, therefore 21. The Earth Elemental has an armor of 10, therefore 21 minus 10, 11. And I think, let me just recalculate it once again. 15, 17, 23. 23 minus 10 is a 13 or less. And with a roll of 16, it is not enough to wound the Earth Elemental. What I forgot to mention last turn, the Night Temple Priestess has the Enchanter class, therefore she did not have to roll when she casts her spell Unrelenting Zeal at the Slayer Dragoon. But since the Slayer Dragoon hit the Earth Elemental with attack, she is allowed to use the knockback ability of the Slayer Lance, which means that the Earth Elemental, when it dodged into the Slayer Dragoon's reach, it is actually moved again away 1 inch. So with this, only the Earth Elemental has the engaged state, and I will prepare the next activation. Following the Slayer Dragoon's activation, the Hunter Skilled Ranger will activate. He will move into contact with the terrain and reveal his shrouded state by declaring an attack at this gargoyle. And with this, the gargoyle will react by using a dodge action. So the gargoyle will dodge 2.5 inches closer to the Hunter's Guild Ranger. The gargoyle, needing 8 or less to dodge the attack. With an 18, it is not enough. The Ranger's Guild Hunter, so this way, has an accuracy of 14 and a short bow, therefore 2 strikes. 14 or less to hit. Natural 20 and a 16. Both fail to hit. Therefore, no assassination class and no Ranger's class will be activated. Not happy about the outcome, the Ranger's Guild Hunter repeats its activation. Therefore, the gargoyle once again uses its activation to dodge 2.5 inch closer. The gargoyle managed to roll a 4 on the dodge roll. Therefore, the Ranger's Guild Hunter needs critical hits. And he managed to roll 2 3s, first one and the second one, and since he's an assassin, this counts as a critical hit, therefore negating the gargoyle's dodge activation, hitting the gargoyle 2 times, and in addition ignoring the gargoyle's armor for the damage rolls. His shotbow has normally a power equal to his toughness of 10, but since he uses his combat arts Assassination 1, he adds +6, therefore 16 or less to wound the gargoyle. And we have a 9 and we have a 19, but the 9 is enough to wound the gargoyle 1 time, and since it is a construct, it will be destroyed. Meaning that the Ranger's Guild Hunter was successful. And for the final activation of the Coalition of Thenion, once again, the Slayer Dragoon will activate, will stay idle, and the Earth Elemental will activate. The Earth Elemental once again will try to dodge the attack, getting into contact with the Slayer Dragoon first, needing a 6 or less, and it's a roll of 15. Therefore, it is far from enough. Now, the Slayer Dragoon, needing a 17 or less, with a roll of 2, she not only hits, because she is also an assassin, she will now ignore the Earth Elemental's armor, therefore 23 or less to wound. And not surprisingly, with an 11, she is able to wound the Earth Elemental. The Slayer Lance has the Cleave ability, therefore the Earth Elemental gets 2 wounds, and the Earth Elemental has to make, and it will be repelled 1 inch again away from the Slayer Dragoon because of the knockback ability, and her size is large enough to affect even the Earth Elemental. And now, since the Lupus Rex confers the hit and run ability, she would be allowed to make a move next to the building. And next, she will be allowed to make a move, and she will use it to get out of line of sight behind the building. So, roughly around there. So, and since it's the end of the turn of the Coalition of Thenion, the Ranger's Guild Hunter will use his Ranger's class to move 6 inches, jump over the wall because he has the climb and jump ability, and also prepare to get out of line of sight. Let me prepare the first turn of the hostiles, and I'll see you then. For the hostiles' first activation, the Earth Elemental first of all regenerated one of its lost hit points. Afterwards, it moved 4 inches forward. Now, once again, seeing the Slayer Dragoon, and it will use a hurl action to attack the Slayer Dragoon. The Slayer Dragoon will activate with a dodge action, and with so the Earth Elemental hurl action, the Slayer Dragoon will use a dodge action, and you will actually dodge closer. Will dodge next time. But before that, we have the Night Temple Priestess, who will also activate, and she will activate by cast the Agony spell at the Earth Elemental, which means that the enchanted model must perform an int roll at the beginning of each activation or reaction, so it is for the next turn. On a failed roll, it loses 1 HP and its activation or reaction ends. If a friendly model comes in base contact with the enchanted model, this enchantment ends. So, she has an intelligence value of 14, therefore needing a 14 or less, and with a roll of 10, the Earth Elemental is successfully enchanted. I will use a panic counter to remind me about this enchantment for the next turn, so that I will not forget it. And since the Earth Elemental is not affected by panic, this is, I think, a good reminder. And with this, the Slayer Dragoon will roll for her dodge. She has an agility of 12, therefore needing a 12 or less, and she rolled an 18, which is not enough to dodge the hurl, and she will dodge right afterwards the Earth Elemental. Since this is within 8 inches, it will has an accuracy total of 14, but since the Slayer Dragoon is not enough in cover, there will be no penalty for the heavy cover. The Earth Elemental, on the other hand, also rolled an 18, not enough to hit the Slayer Dragoon. And with that, and knowing that the Earth Elemental is affected by Agony, the Slayer Dragoon will walk right up or dodge right up with a 4.5 inches into contact or close into contact with the Earth Elemental, enough to be in reach and affecting the Earth Elemental once again with the engaged token. Let me prepare the next activation. The Earth Elemental next activation will begin by the Earth Elemental moving into contact with the Slayer Dragoon. But before that, here's the token. It will make an intelligence roll. The Slayer Dragoon, on the other hand, will activate nevertheless by attacking the Earth Elemental. The Earth Elemental Agony, it needs a roll of 6 or less. It's a 19, therefore the activation is wasted. The Earth Elemental gets another wound, and the Slayer Dragoon is allowed to make an attack, therefore 17 or less to hit, and it's an 18, not enough to wound the Earth Elemental. And the hostile's final activation will be the Gargoyle, which will start from here, using a run action to the nearest model with the lowest HP. And since the Night Temple Priestess is flying and the Gargoyle has no chance to reach her, the Gargoyle will run towards the Ranger's Guild Hunter. The Ranger's Guild Hunter, on the other hand, will activate, and he will use his activation to dodge, therefore to reposition a little bit, and he will use this dodge to go 3 inches to the side, and once again blocking the line of sight to the Gargoyle. And let's go to the next activation. In the final activation for the hostile's turn, the Gargoyle will activate, use its Client ability to get into contact with the Ranger's Guild Hunter, who will activate and dodge, and the Gargoyle, of course, will make an attack. The Ranger has an agility of 13 to dodge, and with a roll of 5, he is able to dodge. The Gargoyle, needing with its offense value of 12 or less to hit, and that's off the screen, but it is a 5 and an 11, therefore there's no critical hit, not enough to hit the Ranger Guild Hunter, who will use his 3 inches to go closer to his allies. And with this, the hostile's turn is completed. The Coalition of Thenion's turn will start with the Knight Temple Priestess, who will just use one of her activation points to convert it into another mana point. And then she will activate actually, and she will stay where she is because she is within reach to use 2 of her mana tokens and cast the Draining Impulse spell onto her ally, the Slayer Dragoon, who is within range of her 14-inch aura. Actually, as you can see here, it's 12 inches. And this spell will cause the enchanted model receives additional 2 activation points in its active and reactive role. After this enchantment is removed, the model becomes fatigued. Therefore, in the next Coalition of Thenion's activation or turn, the Slayer Dragoon will be fatigued. There will be, I have found no rules of the fatigue. They are missing in the rulebook 1.5. Therefore, I will use the weakened state instead. But for this turn and the reaction, the Slayer Dragoon gets 2 additional activation points. Now the Slayer Dragoon will activate with her first of 4 actions. The Earth Elemental will react. It will dodge towards the Slayer Dragoon, and needing a 6 or less to dodge. This is off camera, but it is a roll of natural 20. Therefore, the Earth Elemental fails its dodge. Now the Slayer Dragoon needs a 17 or less to hit, and with a roll of 8, it is enough. Power are in total of 23 minus the armor of 10, 13 or less. It's a 17, not enough. The Earth Elemental will be pushed 1 inch back. Now the same process repeats. Earth Elemental needing a 6 or less. It's a 12. This is not enough. The Slayer Dragoon, 17 or less to hit. It's a 13, and now, therefore, it hits the Earth Elemental, needing 13 or less to wound. With a roll of 8 this time, it is enough to put 2 additional wounds onto the Earth Elemental, which will be enough to destroy it. And since the Slayer Dragoon has used an attack action, and the Lupus Rex, as I said previously, confers the hit and run ability, she's actually able to move, and I noticed that I'm already using actually a lot, so I will just pay attention to it. And she will move closer to her ally, who is still fighting with a gargoyle. Now, the Ranger's Guild Hunter will activate. He will walk 6 inches to get a better line of sight at the gargoyle, who is a small size, and will attack the gargoyle. The gargoyle will use a dodge activation to get 2.5 inches closer to the Ranger's Guild Hunter, and it will dodge. With a roll of 11, it is not enough. The Ranger's Guild Hunter, 2 attacks, needing a 14 or less. He rolled a 5 and a 17, which is, the 17 is not enough, but the 5 will hit. Total a power of 16 minus the armor of 5 of the gargoyle. Therefore, 11 or less to wound. And with a roll of 5, it is even enough to wound the gargoyle, therefore destroying it. So I'm already in the next turn of the Coalition turn. The Ranger Guild Hunter and the Slayer Dragoon, they use from the previous turn the remaining action to just reposition. In this turn, the Knight Temple Priestess already activated, converted one of her mana activation points into a mana token, and now she will use her next activation to cast Fairy Fever onto the fatigued, or in this case weakened, Slayer Dragoon, and this spell removes the weakened, bleeding, poisoned, confused, crippled, blinded, immobilized, panicked, petrified, and fatigued state from the model, and the model also receives +2 offense and defense until the next strategic phase. So this is basically only the idea to remove the fatigue token previously imposed by the draining impulse. And I think this is a combination with the draining impulse and the fairy fever to give the Slayer Dragoon 2 more activations, therefore allowing her to attack a total of 4 times and up to 4 targets. And afterwards, in the following turn, when the Slayer Dragoon would be fatigued, to use Fairy Fever to re-establish her full potential and additionally give her +2 offense and defense. So I just wanted to put it in to explain the basic tactics, and with that the other two will wait so that the Temple Priestess will regain her ability point activation points before we will start to explore the ruins. So this turn the Slayer Dragoon begins her movement activation by walking into this building. Let me just put her inside, and she will roll on the first building table, and then she will do an attack, and it's a roll of 13. Roll of 13 means that a gargoyle immediately engages the mortal that walked in. With the gargoyle engaged with the Slayer Dragoon, the Slayer Dragoon will use her still remaining activation, or her current activation, to attack the gargoyle. Who cannot react because it was not on the table when the upkeep phase, therefore it has no activation points. 17 or less, it's a roll of 10, which is enough. Total power of 23 minus the armor of 5, therefore 18 or less to wound the gargoyle. And with a natural 1, the gargoyle will be immediately destroyed, after which the Slayer Dragoon will just use her hit and run ability to reposition. Having found nothing of value so far, the Slayer Dragoon will spend her next activation point to walk into the next building and exploring this, the second building table. It is a roll of 14. Yep. And roll 14 on the second building means that a gargoyle emerges to challenge you. The monster you find immediately reacts to your attack. Therefore, another gargoyle will be here, and this time the gargoyle is in its reactive phase, therefore it has only 1 attack. And since the Slayer Dragoon declared an attack action, we will have a confrontation. And let me just put it a little bit that we can see the die roll. The gargoyle with a defense of 8 rolls a 9, which is not enough. The Slayer Dragoon with an offense of 17, she rolls an 8, therefore she wins the confrontation. And once again, total power of 23 minus armor of 5, 18 or less to wound. And with a roll of 2, this is enough to once again destroy the gargoyle. And using her hit and retreat ability, she will move 2 inches here, 6 inches here, and be ready to explore the next building. So, with the Rangers Guild Hunter and the Knight Temple Priestess just repositioning in their previous turn, the Slayer Dragoon will activate in this turn immediately, once again charging into a new building. Let's have a roll on the third building table, and it is a 15. And a 15 means a gargoyle appears ready to attack. The monster you find immediately reacts and attacks you. And with this, we are getting another gargoyle into contact with the Slayer Dragoon, who will immediately attack. The Slayer he will roll 15. Therefore, it is above the defense value of 8. The Slayer Dragoon will also use an attack to make this a confrontation. And with a roll of 14, it is enough to roll below the 17. And once again, 18 or less. and with a roll of 3, this is enough for the Slayer Dragoon to also destroy this gargoyle. And with the hit and retreat ability, she's able to walk up to here. And in the next activate in this turn, all of the models will activate again. Walk into the 4th building, which will automatically end this mission. And the Coalition of Thenion has won this mission without any wounds taken, and I'll see you in the after action report. So, after action report, and what do I think about the Coalition of Thenion? I think it's a real fun faction to play. They have, especially with the Night Temple Priestess here, they have a lot of synergy. She has some really powerful spells, as we just have seen with the Slayer Dragoon, who suddenly has 4 attacks instead of only 2. And with her hit and retreat ability and her dash ability, she could potentially make 4 dash or attacks per turn, targeting 4 different targets or opponents, causing 2 wounds each. So in a normal game, I predict this combination will cause a lot of havoc, but the Night Temple Priestess has a low armor. I'm not sure, I put already away the stat card. I'm not sure if she has 1 or 2 armor value of 1 or even 0. Let me just check it on the guild hall. She has an armor of 2 actually, and 1 hit point. So basically she's very fragile, and that's the theme of the Coalition faction. The Ranger's Guild Hunter also only has 1 wound and an armor value of, let me just look it up, hit 1 hit point and also armor value of 2. He also has only a moral of 10. The Night Temple Priestess has a moral of 8. Her inspiring ability affects her allies, therefore possibly the Ranger's Guild Hunter could have a moral of 16 and the Slayer Dragoon would have a moral of 21. So all in all, the Night Temple Priestess is a really support model with her spells to confer activation points, and also to, with Unrelenting Zeal, allow allies to make a moral check, which includes her bonus to moral from inspiring, therefore 21 or 16 to ignore a wound. Fiery Fever allows her to buff the offense and defense capability and also remove the fatigue state she previously conferred with the Draining Impulse. And also her Agony spell is a real hard debuff, causing an enemy model to make an intelligence roll at the beginning of each activation and reaction. Otherwise, the action or reaction ends and it loses 1 HP. So a really high damage output in the Coalition, but they can't take a punch themselves. So you have to really strategize. And yeah, basically the Coalition of Thenion is a glass cannon faction. High damage output, low damage endurance. And with this, I'm looking forward for the next game, and especially after I finish once again this little campaign of Heart of Obsidian, I'm really looking forward to do some faction versus faction games. And I'm curious how this combination will fare there. See you then.